If you go try to find and make a mentor, I think it's a very different scenario than if a mentor finds you. Tourism is not the end goal. Tourism is a transformative action for the community. The big, hairy, audacious goal, the BHAG, is to build Vancouver's visitor economy to 11 billion by 2030. We have to be honest about both sides of the city. It's not just roses and rainbows. We do have challenges like many big cities.
Welcome back to the Daily Show podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. I have the honor and pleasure of introducing our next guest speaker, episode 9, Royce Chwin, the president and CEO of Destination Vancouver. Destination Vancouver is an incredible organization that promotes this beautiful city to the world. Today, we will talk about his leadership, vision for the city, and the incredible organization that he is managing. Since we have FIFA coming up next year, Royce and his organization and his team is playing a key role. Royce, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today.
Thanks, Alton, for the opportunity to be on your podcast and just share some personal thoughts and reflections of this industry.
Royce, you have built an incredible career from Starbucks and Boston Pizza to leading tourism at the national, provincial, and now city level. When you look back, what moment first defined your passion for leadership in the industry?
What moment? I don't think it was ever a moment. It was a series of moments. It was a series of things. I didn't get into the job industry way back in the day thinking, I'm going to be a leader, I'm going to be a CEO. I never thought about being a CEO. Full transparency. That didn't occur to me. But what happened in my career as I went along, what I realized was that I really enjoyed working with a high-performing team. Mm-hmm. And then what seemed to naturally happen was I got pulled into leadership positions. And as I observed other leaders around me, I became more interested in leadership. What to do, what to learn, and quite frankly, what not to do. And that was because of the different people that I experienced as leaders that I worked with, that those were the series of moments. And so it really just evolved from there.
That's great. Actually, that was one of my questions, one of my upcoming questions. I wanted to ask you about one person that you think made a difference, the way you lead in your life, if you would like to share that.
Yeah, I have been very, very fortunate in my career to have had a series of mentors who have found me. And one of the things that I've shared in my career experience with people coming up, if you go try to find and make a mentor, I think it's a very different scenario than if a mentor finds you. It's a very
Definitely.
Natural fit. And so during my career journey, I've had 3 mentors, 3 really distinct mentors who've all come along at different times. And they've all shown me very different things and also shown me where I could grow and improve. And they also reinforced where they thought I was doing really well in terms of my leadership and my own career journey. And 3 fabulous human beings that took the time to get out of the normal series of all of the work that we always do, that ongoing rush, to spend time coaching and developing. And that is one of the greatest gifts that you can give a future leader, is the time for coaching and development.
That's incredible, Royce. As you said, it's different when mentor finds you versus you find a mentor.
100%.
So that tells a lot about your personality and the way you lead, the way your work ethics, so that you attracted a mentor to come and support you. How do you define Vancouver's identity today, and what do you want it to become?
Sure. It comes back to asking the question, how do we stay relevant and how do we show value in the context of tourism and a visitor economy? And so the statement that we often make is that, look, in the role that we do here as a destination management organization, tourism is not the end goal. Tourism is a transformative action for the community. Mm-hmm. So obviously visitor is important because of the spend. Our visitor economy here in Vancouver is $9.6 billion. Mm-hmm. So what does that mean in real terms? Well, the big, hairy, audacious goal, the BHAG, is to build Vancouver's visitor economy to 11 billion by 2030. So those are a bunch of big numbers, and people go, I don't even really get what you're talking about. So if you extract 9.6 billion or 11 billion dollars, that results in tax revenues to all three layers of government. It involves job creation. It involves business creation opportunity. It involves positives to socioeconomic wealth and well-being. And what we want to see is that Vancouver continues to build on this legacy as this big little city with strong community that has this incredible ability to continue to evolve while at the same time being resilient in its growth and evolution. This really is a very young city, if you think about it, since Vancouver got incorporated in the late 1800s. And so we have so much runway ahead of us in terms of the city. And because we as Destination Vancouver started in 1902, so we're the second oldest destination management organization in North America, tourism by the very nature is interwoven in the city's DNA. So we think that a large part of how Vancouver has transformed has been because of tourism, has been because we've put the invite out to people to come to Vancouver. So all of that to say is there's been a great success over the decades, and if we can continue that, we can see Vancouver continuing to grow at a nice steady pace, creating more socioeconomic opportunities for the community while introducing visitors to this amazing location on planet Earth that we get to call home.
Thank you, Royce. That's a great vision.
Okay.
And I know you have a lot of experiences in different organizations, and you used to manage Travel Alberta as well. Do you see a lot of differences in between two destinations and the way you manage each destination, basically? Do you see a lot of differences or challenges from your perspective?
Very, very much so. I mean, a lot of similarities. Of course, we're doing the work of inbound tourism. That is inviting people into the destination. But the circumstances by which you do the work and who you're working with is very different. And as a result, as you can imagine working with government, what that's like, that can be very challenging. You are at the whim of whatever political party is in play. So the degree of politics involved in running that kind of organization in Alberta, and when I was there, when I took the reins of Travel Alberta, was when the energy crash happened, the very back end of 2014 and beginning 2015. And so most of my time was battling the energy crisis in Alberta and trying to demonstrate that tourism was important to the government. Incredibly challenging. Now, contrast that working environment to coming to Vancouver. You know, as I was mentioning earlier, tourism has been part of the fabric of the city since 1902 because of the organization. So I noticed when I came here that I spent very, very little time trying to advocate or convince people the importance of tourism. People already got it. So the amount of time that freed up for us to do our work was significantly different. Also, we are a private not-for-profit, so we do not work at the behest of government, so we don't have the same political impacts as you would working for a crown corporation. So what that allows us to do at Destination Vancouver is to be a lot more entrepreneurial, take more risk, and really work on the ground, really work at the sidewalk level with our operators, with our industry, and really demonstrate the results from the work that we do. And it comes back to a comment that I made earlier that you'll see is probably a reoccurring theme in our conversation, and that is relevance and value. And I find that working at the city level, we can demonstrate relevance and value in a more tangible way and in a different way than I could at the Crown Corporation in Alberta. And to be clear, that's not to say that was bad, and it wasn't bad. It was a fantastic experience, but they are very different operating models, and you're able to accomplish and land different things.
Thank you so much, Royce. I have been looking forward to this conversation, not only as a host, but also as someone who deeply admires what Destination Vancouver represents, innovation and leadership. So thank you so much to you and your team for all you do. And I also noticed that...
The team, Alton. It is the team. I just try to get out of the way.
Yes, I also want to ask you about that, because on the email signatures of your team and yourself, it says team member. And I want to ask you about that.
Yes. So when I came on board in July of 2020. So we were in the gut of the pandemic. And we were in a very tough position. The board made a very tough decision to let go of about 70% of the team.
Okay.
So that the organization could stay whole and survive, because we didn't know. There was no tourism. Nothing was happening, as we all know. But part of my mandate in all of that, aside from trying to stay alive, was the board had asked, we need this organization to transform. So its brand needed to evolve, the culture needed to change, the mandate, digital, there was about 5 sort of core elements. The first thing that I started with was the culture of the team, and to really understand the people that were left, what was important to them, what drove them crazy, and what they would like to see changed. And one of the things that I picked up on right away was this prevalence of siloship. So there were staff members working in silos in different aspects of the organization. Mm-hmm. And I come from an incredibly strong belief that it is not rocket science, it's not something Royce figured out, but the team cohesion and culture is what is going to drive our results. And it's not title. So in our signature block, the decision was, and what I'd asked was, the first thing under the name is team member. Because ultimately, if you don't identify as a team member, then your title's not really that relevant. Mm-hmm. I may be the CEO, but my core responsibility is as a team member of Destination Vancouver, mm-hmm. and then the associated responsibilities come from the mm-hmm. title. And I picked up on that culture and that signature actually back from my Travel Alberta days from one of my previous mentors. And we talked about that, and the signature block was similar there. And so I carried that forward, but really applied it to the cultural change that I felt was needed in order to do the transformative work from Tourism Vancouver to Destination Vancouver. It wasn't broken at all. It just needed to evolve, but it started with being a team. We're not a bunch of employees, not a bunch of staff members. That can be anywhere. We are a team.
I really like that. That's incredible, Royce. And that speaks volumes about your leadership and the culture you have here at the Destination Vancouver. And as you said, it's not about, because you talked about government and the politics and everything. And of course, corporate companies and the corporate world is a little bit different. But what I see is in the upper management, sometimes, when the leader come in, they try to create their own teams. Mm-hmm. But again, this speaks volumes about your leadership, because when you came in, you tried to get the entire team to work together. You tried to understand the team and what they're looking for and how everybody can work efficiently and better together. So that's very incredible. And it should be a good example to, I think, all the organizations. Royce, you talk a lot about collaboration, and yet leadership can sometimes be lonely at the top. What keeps you grounded and inspired as a leader?
Thankfully, lots of things. So it is lonely at the top, and we've all heard that cliche many times. And before I ascended to becoming a CEO, I had heard that, and then when I became CEO, it was, oh yeah, that cliche is right. It is lonely at the top. And so what keeps me grounded? I've got an incredible family, and my wife, she is awesome. And she's actually a large part of how I was able to even get into tourism. That's a whole other story, but it wasn't for her. And so she understands the work that I do. She understands the business. So she is a massive grounding factor. The other thing too is build in your schedule time for exercise and well-being, especially in these roles. They are very stressful. They can be very demanding. You're out and about all the time. And because we're in a very social business, we are the business of entertaining and hospitality and showing, what a city has to offer. We can be out every night, yes. Dining and drinking. And I know, people listening to this go, oh yeah, it's party time. You're always doing stuff. No, it's work, because you're on and you're connecting with the community and you're connecting with members and you're trying to advance relationships, and it's important. So you've got to bounce off with health, however described, and eating. Health, eating, all of those pieces together, exercise, For the love of Pete, do something. Do not sit around.
Any tips for food, Royce? Any tips for food? I'm sure you have been traveling a lot for business, and I can relate to that. We are in hospitality. There are always events, drinks, delicious food.
Yes. Okay, so funny that you mentioned that. About a week and a half ago, I received some sad news, and that is that Travel Alberta's very first board chair, a fellow by the name of Quincy Smith, back in Calgary when I was there, he had just passed away. Fabulous guy, and a mentor to many people, and he was one of those formative figures along the way that helped me. And so I told the story when we were reminiscing about Quincy stories. And so we're sitting at the table at another board management event, and we're eating away. And then Quincy has his plate of food, and he takes it, and it's not done, he just pushes it away. And we were just talking, and I said, Quincy, you're, at the time, I don't know what he was, 72 or something, and he was cycling and running, all kinds of stuff, really healthy guy. And I said, how do you stay healthy? Like, what do you do? He goes, I'm on the push-away diet.
Push-away diet.
And I go, what the hell is the push-away diet? And he goes, I don't want any more food, I push it away. Push-away diet, push my plate away. And I went, oh, okay, well, that's quite smart. I don't want any more food, I just push it away. Now, I know it sounds silly and it sounds simple, but when we're out all the time, like, I just don't need to eat all the stuff that's coming around on all the plates and all the service food. And it's really just having some willpower to just manage it. But I try to make sure that in the morning I start the base off right. I go to the gym every morning. I do my protein, do all of those things to try to energize during the day. And I find that takes the edge off of the desire to graze on the constant hospitality offerings that are out there that are a natural part of the business.
That's incredible. And I'm sure this will be a great example for the upcoming generation of leaders and professionals as well.
I hope so. Manage your health. Oh my goodness. And just as a plug for mental health, if you need help, do not succumb to the stigma of mental health. Go call somebody, go find a family member. There are lots of resources out there. Call somebody and get help. There are lots of people willing to help.
I agree. Thank you, Royce. Royce, you haven't spoken about Vancouver's hotel shortage, housing challenges, and public safety issues, all while tourism is in demand again. Now the FIFA World Cup is coming up. Do you think City will be ready to meet that demand?
The short answer is yes. I really do. I think we have to remember that this city has learned and is built for hosting. Expo 86, FIFA Women's World Cup in 2015, Paralympic Winter Games in 2010, of course. And then after that, how many events and festivals does this city put on every year? Fireworks, as an example. We just had the Grey Cup. We just did the Junos. Web Summit has just come here. Business conferences. Now, none of that equals FIFA in terms of its size and its scale and impact, but the city understands how to host in the footprint that it has, and a tremendous amount of work is going on behind the scenes from all different aspects of event planning to ensure that the city is going to be ready. Every dimension that you could think of. And I'm grateful to be part of the Provincial Executive Committee for FIFA, so I get to see some of the inner details and participate in that. So I think the city will be ready to put on an incredible event for FIFA. You talk about hotel challenges. And the hotel challenges, I believe, are a result of the success that we had from the 2010 games. Meaning that when the games concluded, we had a little bit of a dip, and then every year after that, the tourism numbers started to rise.
Yes.
But the foundational cracks were not being addressed because at the same time we were losing accommodations. So the mic drop statement in all of this is that we have the same amount of rooms today as we did in 2002. That's pre-Olympic. And so what was happening was either properties were being sold off for supportive housing, or hotels had closed down, notably the Four Seasons as an example, but we weren't structurally thinking about continuing to invite the world here and what would we do for accommodations. Short-term rentals, like Airbnb, will only absorb so much. And here's where part of the complexity happens. We need workers in this industry. It is an industry of industries, restaurants, hotels, transportation, retail, all of the things. People are not going to want to come and commute from Chilliwack downtown to work at a coffee shop. So what's the balance between predictable accommodations, which are good like our hotels, versus the right number of short-term rentals, they could fill in some of the gap, to the need for affordable housing? In our mandate, of course, we're not going to fix affordable housing, but what we can do is we can influence the need to rethink the idea around the importance of accommodations. And so we struck up an accommodations task force that has members of our board, members of the city on there. We've got an architect, we've got a developer on there. So we had a really great cross-section of really smart people thinking about the problem. City of Vancouver did not have a specific hotel development policy. So through the work of the committee and working with City Hall, and when I pod City Hall and the councillors, they approved the hotel development policy. And a mark of success is that when we started this work just about 2 years ago, there were 9 hotels in the development pipeline in various stages. Not particularly moving fast, it was very clunky. Today we're up to 28 properties being considered. And most recently, and I just heard this in the last week, that one of the developers involved in developing hotel property said that the process has changed for the better. And that is music to our ears, because if we've done all this work and everything stays the same, then we failed.
Yes.
But in their view, they have felt that the process by which they're trying to get their development permits in their interactions with City Hall to move the project along, they've seen a vast improvement. So it's going to take time to fix the problem. I think we're about a decade and a half behind in terms of hotels. The goal's 10,000 rooms for Vancouver proper by 2050. Today, 28 properties, roughly 4,800 rooms, so we're almost half of the way there. They won't all be ready for FIFA, but we do have properties coming online over the next decade, and we've got some approvals that just happened. We've got hotels building right now. So it's a long answer to a simple question. You have to deal with what we have right now. From an accommodation standpoint and the city being ready, yes, because it's not just Vancouver, it's the Lower Mainland, and we're attacking the long-term solutions needed for hotel capacity being layered on in the successive years.
And probably the entire Greater Vancouver area the accommodations will stretch to entire Greater Vancouver area, right? Including Surrey, and I'm sure people will be booking hotels there too.
Surrey, Burnaby, Whistler, expect people to be booking on the island. Nanaimo, Hello Ferries have been fantastic. They can adjust their schedules if needed. Taylor Swift was a good example. So when those 3 concerts happened, transportation providers, BC Ferries, Hello as an example, they adjusted their schedules to get people back and forth across the island. So we can adapt. We can do this. I'm not worried about that because we've already had some experiences on how we can manage the flows of people and where they can stay. My biggest concern is construction projects and roadways. So the more that we have that going on next year, the inability and traffic to get people through, and so that's being discussed and I'm sure will be addressed.
Right.
But I think we'll be able to host off the best of the 16 cities here in Vancouver. I think, a little biased of course, we're the most beautiful city out of the 16. Just saying.
I agree. Great insight, Royce. Thank you. And you talked about needing more workers in our industry, and I'm very excited for FIFA, and I know a lot of my students registered as a volunteer for FIFA, so we are very excited for the event.
Fantastic. I'm glad to hear that.
Royce, what do you think people outside of Canada most often misunderstand about Vancouver as a destination and as a community?
That's an interesting question, Alton. When people come to Vancouver, I don't think they realize how the city is situated in nature, with the proximity of the ocean around us, the mountains, this incredible tapestry that the city is built on, with generally the ease of movement downtown, and also the diversity of the population that lives here, coupled with things like cuisine. They know there's restaurants, they know there's transportation, those kinds of things, but until you get on ground here, I think people become really surprised and go, wow, it's easy for me to get around. Transportation from the airport downtown is great. And we often hear comments about the diversity of our restaurant offering here. And we're Michelin City now. We have been we're going into our 5th year of Michelin, as an example. And so that is often what we hear. And this other interesting piece of information. So when we were doing our brand research, the evolution work, we did it globally, the research about Vancouver. And a really interesting insight popped up. And people said that when they visited Vancouver, unlike other cities, they didn't leave feeling tired and drained. Like, you're in the city, it's a grind, and they actually felt invigorated and refreshed and energized from a Vancouver visit. So, I think that's where people are most surprised and don't expect that coming to a city. And we love that about our destination, because if you come here and you're hanging out and you're here for a business event or perhaps leisure, or you've come in for a cultural event, and you experience the tapestry that the city sits in and you leave feeling energized and positive, what a great win for our reputation and our destination brand that people can carry forward and talk about the city. The flip side to that is, we do have challenges with safety downtown, which we are all collectively as a community working on. We do have care and attention to the downtown east side and Chinatown and Gastown, which are important communities to us, and they're very complex social issues and challenges that we're being worked on. So there are visitors who come through and they walk down in those areas and they're surprised, because on one side you see the beauty of the city, you don't expect that.
Right.
So we've done a lot of work educating our team members and our volunteer force, over 220 volunteers, about how to manage the conversation with visitors when they experience open drug use or they see people struggling on the streets. What we as a community in our city are doing to try to address these problems and these challenges and trying to make it better. Mm-hmm. So we have to be honest about both sides of the city. It's not just roses and rainbows. We do have challenges like many big cities, but we are actively as a community trying to work on these things.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Royce, for your insights and being objective about the flip side as well. Yeah. I really appreciate that. I think Vancouver is one of the best cities in the world. Mountain meets the ocean. I fell in love with this city 11 years ago when I first arrived, and I never left since. As a home. Yeah. I know everyone who visits fell in love. I think only thing that we can say as a misunderstanding is that people are not aware how beautiful Vancouver, and that could be maybe a misunderstanding for me. But as you said, we have some issues to solve. Definitely, safety is the biggest one.
Yes.
And I know that we need support from the government on this. You can only do so much as a destination company, right? So
we can bring the people here, but it's the community working together with all levels of government and community that have to have the courage to make the hard decisions in order to solve or help what's happening, because if we don't, we will simply have a continuation.
I agree.
And nothing will change, and we'll continue to finger point and nothing will be productive. That's like trying to find a corner in a round room. You won't find one, so we got to change our thinking.
Royce, you have guided organizations through big challenges and the pandemic. What's one thing that experience taught you about yourself?
I know you asked one thing, and it's hard to do one thing. I'm going to give you two things, just because it's Friday. So, first of all, curiosity is a superpower. So, I don't know how you guide an organization through challenges if you're not curious about what people are going through, if you're not curious about the business challenges you're facing, if you're not curious to explore new solutions to try to solve the issues. So curiosity is a superpower. And this statement usually raises a couple of eyebrows, but if you think you're the smartest person in the room, it's probably empty. You have to be working with people and asking the questions in order to solve the challenges in the destination. The other part of that, Alton, is what I continue to learn is patience. I want to see stuff done today. I want to see it like done right now. I want to see the change, because I know when the change happens, I can see beautiful results and things that are from the better. So, in my learning and guiding organizations through big challenges and stress, it is the patience for the results to develop, because I can see the other side, what could be.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And Royce, one more question.
Yeah.
How do you manage stress? I know that's a very difficult question, but you are a CEO and you are one of the visionary leaders in Canada, in the world. And you have a big team to manage and you have big responsibilities. I know you talked about exercising, but are there any other tips that you can share with the audience?
Yeah. I am a fantastically terrible guitar player, Alton. So playing the guitar, I can't think of anything else. So it is a great stress reliever. My family upbringing, my mom in particular loved music. We had a piano in the house. We were always listening to music, and so I love music. So music helps. I play hockey. I'm a goalie, ice hockey goalie.
Awesome.
So I transfer the tourism stress to on-ice stress, which is a good stress to have.
Okay.
I do that. And, I've got a great circle of friends and family and colleagues, and that allows me to break away from the day-to-day conversations and the weight of the work that we do. And we're grateful for this work, don't get me wrong. I am fully aware of and appreciative of how lucky I am to have the role that I have for Vancouver. Mm-hmm. It's stressful, but I have a lot of those different things, so I can get out of my own head, and it helps alleviate the stress of the work of leading a team, being responsible for a bunch of people, and feeling an innate sense of responsibility for my home. I grew up here. So, it's Vancouver as a city, but I grew up here, so I feel an innate different sense of weight and a responsibility to promote, my home, our home, because I come from here. And so I have all these other outlets that allow me to manage stress.
Speaking of guitar,
yes,
I would like to wrap up with some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Coffee or tea?
Americano misto with oat milk.
One word that defines Vancouver for you.
Transformative.
A destination you'd return to for inspiration. Vancouver doesn't count.
I knew you were going to say that. It can't be Vancouver. I'm from here.
Or your favorite destination to get away.
I have many destinations I like. I have not found the favorite destination yet.
A piece of advice you would give to your younger self.
Be more patient.
Be more patient, okay. Finish these sentences. Leadership is...
Curiosity.
Thank you so much, Royce. Before we close, what message would you like to leave with the next generation of professionals and leaders?
This career that is tourism is such an opportunity to open up your worldview, and it is more than this idea of thinking, well, tourism is just a pass-through job. I'm just going to work on the front desk, or I'm just going to do beds, or I'm just going to serve tables. Those are all really important jobs. And whether you just do that as your career as a career housekeeper, fantastic. If it's that and you aspire to management and a leadership position, wonderful. But all of the jobs within our industry are all about building strong social networks and creating community and creating connections, learning to work with people, understanding yourself in the greater context of your operating environment, and what great skills to learn and build in this industry. And even if you've joined the industry and it is a means to becoming a healthcare worker, a responder, a judge, a doctor, whatever else, remember the skills you've learned in this industry. And if you've chosen this as a career, there are so many different things you can do in the tourism and hospitality. I'm always surprised when people when they ask about the industry and think about it so narrowly and don't realize the opportunities that this industry has. When I started way, way back, I didn't even know about DMOs. I didn't even know they existed, Alton. What is a DMO? Back in my Starbucks, my Boston Pizza days, I worked in the car industry for a while, hadn't a clue. And it was just a series of happy accidents that finally really got me to understand, what a DMO was. A quick funny story about industry. So if you apply once and you don't get accepted, apply again. So back when I was 19 or 20 years old, I applied for a job. I think it was Tourism Vancouver back in the day.
Wow.
I didn't get hired, clearly. So I wonder what my life would have been like today if that job hadn't been accepted, but I'm glad it didn't, because it forced me to do all of these other things that were connected to the industry. But all of those experiences allowed me to build myself in a position that has given me the opportunity to create my own success to get me to the role today, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So that's my path to get through that, to get where it is today. So, as your listeners, it's not always a linear path. It's not always a binary path. Take the learnings that you get from the experiences that you're in and make something of it. You're either in this industry for life because it gets into you, which is great, or you've used it to create something outstanding in some other aspect of a professional career.
Thank you so much, Royce, for taking the time to join us today.
Thank you.
And your vision, your leadership, and your passion is truly inspiring for our industry. And I know this episode will inspire many professionals and students who are looking up to the leaders like yourself. So thank you so much.
It was a pleasure.